Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here for Naptime Nuggets number 5. This is a topic that is so near and dear to me because when my daughters were 6 years old and 2 years old, I was embattled in power struggles. And then I took a 2-day training from Mary Sheedy Kersinka at the University of Minnesota called Kids, Parents, and Power Struggles. And for the very first time, I learned about temperament and difficult temperament traits. And guess what? My daughter had many of them. So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm so glad you're here. So imagine this. I'm trying to get ready to get my kids out of the house. My 3.5-year-old, I asked her, do you want to go out and go sledding? She goes, oh, I'm like, I'm offering to do something fun with you. Come on, what's wrong with you? I learned later, negative first reaction. So we start getting ready to go outside. She puts her snow pants on. I help her get all bundled up. You know how it is in the winter. And we start going to go outside and she goes, the strap is bugging me. Okay, the strap is bugging her. So I try and help her do the strap, smooth it all out. I mean, it was tied together, but it was okay. It was smooth enough. It's still bugging me. This went on and on until finally I said, Haley, suck it up. It's clothes. No clothes feel 100% comfortable. Okay, not my best mommy moment. But imagine you're my 3-year-old and you're feeling really uncomfortable with your clothes right now. And I tell you to suck it up, get over it. What's wrong with you? How do you feel right now? She's going to feel not cared about. What else is she going to feel? Sad. Yeah. How's she going to feel about me? Our relationship. How she is wired. Whether she's okay or not. What's going to happen to her self-esteem? So in that moment, I was just as frustrated as any of you would have been. I had a bad reaction to it, but I didn't understand it. I felt like she was doing it to me. Fast forward 3 years. We are in power struggle after power struggle. She is 6 years old, but now I know about temperament. Now I know she has high sensitivity, meaning that she feels things more than I do. I'm lower sensitivity. So that day when she was really struggling with, oh, the strap is bugging me, she was really feeling the strap pushing into her shoulder. I wouldn't have felt that strap, so I couldn't relate to it. So now I have developed strategies for working with her that are going to be more useful. So I promise you by the end of today, in the next 15 minutes, you're going to walk away with a deeper understanding of temperament, but also a few strategies to work with a couple of the most difficult traits. And then next week, we're going to look at high intensity. So fast forward, I learned about temperament. Now I know she has high sensitivity. So grandma gives her a dress. And now we're going to grandma's house and she puts the dress on just to show respect to grandma. And she thinks it's a cute dress, but she puts it on and it turns out it's one of those that have the material that's kind of the interwoven elastic in the little pattern on the front. So it's itching her and she's just like, oh, this is bugging me. So I say, oh, that really bothers you, doesn't it? I probably wouldn't notice that because I don't feel things as much as you do, but you can really feel that and that's bothering you. What can you do? I look at her, I wait, I watch, I listen. She goes, I can put a t-shirt under it. Yes, good idea. Now how does she feel about me? Empowered. Yes, listen to. What happens to our relationship when she feels like I'm supporting the person that she is? She's less likely to get in power struggles. She's trusting. She feels like I care. She knows that I hear her. So she's going to want to work with me. So now the power struggles start decreasing. I finally look at my 6-year-old as my friend instead of my foe. And she starts to look at me that way too. And we start to have a lot less issues. So what does focusing on this temperament thing do for you? It actually helps the child have better behavior. Like you said, she feels empowered. So then she doesn't act out as much. She also develops ability. the ability to notice what's going on inside of her and think about what she could do about it. And also to notice that other people are different and they might have other needs too. So it helps her learn to adjust depending on what other people's cues are and what their temperament traits are. So then also in the course of this, you end up developing an adult-child connection. And so they don't have as many power struggles with you. So that's why I wanted to bring this important topic to you today. So let's ask the question, what is temperament? I have said it many times now, you know 2 traits already, negative first reaction or positive first reaction. So my firstborn, she had a negative first reaction. Every time I asked her almost anything, she would say no first, even if it was something fun. Turns out I have that too. So that was just her natural response to the world. When I asked her if she wanted to go out sledding, she said no. And it's not because she doesn't like me, it's because that's her first reaction. Now, one temperament trait is negative or positive 100%. So that negative first reaction has served her very well later in life when she got pressure to do things that might not have been good for her. So not one temperament trait is good or bad. It just is. And we all have one. We are wired to respond to the world in different ways. So we go on vacation. What do you do when you wake up in the morning? I go. Did you guess this? I get up and I get going. I don't have a plan for exactly what I'm going to do. I'm very flexible in that, but I have my plan. I go and I go and I go because I am active. So I'm a mover. I will go climb a mountain. I will go walk on the beach, something, but I will be moving. So what will you do when you go on vacation? It depends on your unique temperament. So all of us are wired to respond differently to different things. So let me tell you some things. Now, I made a list so that I can do this efficiently. So how many of you have a child who won't join in right away, who really needs to watch before they join in? How about one like mine that's really sensitive to textures and temperature and different things going on, loud things happening in the environment? So there's distractibility. How many of you have that moment? If I'm taking a test and people start switching over their paper to the next page, I get lost because I'm so distracted by the papers that are turning. Not everybody's distracted by those, right? So we all have different temperaments, different ways of responding. So how many of you have children in your care who feel emotions strongly? And I mean out of nowhere, huge emotions where everybody might turn and look. They might, as a toddler, have had that scream that makes everybody want to hit the deck because they're fearful, right? How many of you have a child that's very persistent? Even when there's a big, huge challenge in their way, they keep working and working and working to get it. Now, I said not one temperament trait is good or bad, right? So what's good about persistence? Now that she's 22, what do I like about the fact that she's persistent? She applied to 10 colleges and didn't get in any of them. And that just made her more determined to work harder. That grit is going to serve her so well in life because sometimes we do fail before we succeed. So I love that persistence, even though it's very inconvenient when they're young and they're persistent and they're trying to do something unsafe or that's driving you crazy. It's actually a good skill. So I decided today to focus on persistence. But you tell me, out of all the things that I said, what's challenging? What is most challenging for you? Is it persistence? Is it how emotional the child is? Is it active? They never stop moving. So you have a child that sticks to a limit no matter what. I mean, they won't stick to your limit. They fight you on everything. You say no, and they'll say, but why? This is my second born too. Oh, I remember I'd say, no, you can't have a cookie before dinner. It was always my rule. I never gave in because I knew that helps little people learn the rules and start to push you less, right? Start to fight you less. So my rule was no cookie before dinner, never, not ever. So here she is. Mom, can I have a cookie? Nope, we never have cookies before dinner, never, not ever. Well, how about just a bite of the cookie? No, right? So here she is. She's a problem solver. Like you said, it's a positive skill, but 15 is different. But how about, I'm like, no, I said no. So what do you do when it comes to persistence? So first, what I want you to do is think about, when does persistence lead to a challenge? So think about the children you care for or your own child who's really highly persistent. Or if you don't have a highly persistent child, think about another child who is. So the child is highly persistent. What triggers that child? What's a problem with that? I mean, really, we want them to stick to their goals and problem solve and work through challenging tasks. So when is it a problem? When it becomes a power struggle. So when you have different agendas. So if they're working on a task and a persistent child needs to get that task done to feel good inside. If you're a persistent adult, you know what I'm talking about. So they need to get that task done. Well, you need to get out of the house. So they want to finish their project. You need to get out of the house. There you go. Power struggle right there. So power struggles when it comes to these young ones, when it comes to persistence, come from when you want them to change a task. So anything with the transition where they need to go from one activity to the other because they want to really stay with that activity until it's finished. So if you care for many young children, I know a lot of you are childcare providers, you know what I'm talking about. You have so many different needs to balance in that moment. You can't possibly let every child finish every project. So you're going to have to stop them and move them on, and they might fall apart. If they're highly intense, they might really fall apart. And that's when the mix of temperaments gets challenging, right? So persistence, they're really going to be triggered when they're told to move on, when they're told no. If they have an adult that's locking into, they're going to really fight you on that. So what can you do about it? Give them two choices. Then they'll get a sense of control and they're more likely to go along with you. So one of the strategies to help them is to be very clear with your rules and boundaries. Prepare them for the transition. So this isn't the child that's going to get up and be rushed through everything in the morning. Being rushed is a trigger. So you need to have set out ahead of time as much as you can, or have the child set out as much ahead of time and have them know what the pattern is going to be. And then they need warning before they're told to move on. So sometimes if you set an alarm or some kind of visual timer, or even a timer on if they're older, like 3 and older, you could even just set a timer on the stove or something like that because they can hear the beep and they'll move on. So setting a timer, preparing them for that transition can really help them smooth into the next step. It is. Persistent kids in childcare can be really challenging. We need to get them on our side, helping us out, right? So let me tell you the 3 things that I wanted to share with you today when it came to the top strategies. So what a persistent kid needs is they need to see from you that you mean it. So the biggest trick, I think, is to pick your battles. Knowing that this child needs to have a sense of control. They need to persist when they're working towards something. So if we want them to get on our agenda, we need to pick our battles because they are going to exhaust us. So is it important that she doesn't have a cookie before dinner? For me, it was. So I could offer her a choice. If she didn't like that choice, I could problem solve with her what she could do to distract herself while she's waiting for dinner. So there's different steps I could do, but that's a battle I am going to fight. Not all of you would fight that fight. You might just give her a cookie. For you, it might not matter. So decide right now with your persistent child, what are you going to stick to no matter what? And then tell them, this is a no-no. I will never give in on this no. Do you see how clear I am? It's not, well, that gets a persistent child going. Like, oh, there's a window open. I want to go through it. No, you need to shut the window if it's really a no. So that's why you pick your battles, because you do not have the energy to fight battles with your persistent child all day long. So where are you going to give them control? Where are you going to let them have a choice? So pick your battles. And then the second piece is decide very early if you're going to give in or not, because this is the thing. And this is the last big tip I'm going to give you, but it's a good one. That child says they want something. You say no. Let's say we'll go to the cookie before dinner again. So she wants a cookie before dinner. And I say, no, we don't have a cookie before dinner, and offer her a choice. I want a cookie. I said, no, we don't eat cookies before dinner. Offer a choice. I want a cookie. You know the rule here. I'm sorry, but you're not going to get a cookie before dinner today. That is the rule. We stick to it every day, no matter. I want a cookie. I want a cookie. And here's an all-out tantrum on the floor. If you give in at that moment, you have just ensured your battles will continue. because what you did is the stress hormone went up in the child's body. And then when you gave in, the stress hormone went back down. They were able to find calm through getting what they wanted. So now next time, what are the odds they're going to go up that high to get what they want? Very, very sure that's going to happen. So that persistent child, they need to build the self-regulation skills inside to be able to handle no sometimes. They can't have no all the time. That would be too frustrating. Too many limits, too much you controlling. That's where you get stuck in those power struggles. So we are at the end for today, but let me tell you an astounding resource that's going to expand on this very much. I have put it in our temperament tools group that we have, and I've actually done a little live presentation that walks you through the website and how to use it. So let me show you. I just found out how to do this today. It was so exciting, and that I can actually show you my screen in Facebook Live, but I can't do this and that at the same time. So I'm going to put it in the comment box here. So here is my Temperament Tools Facebook group that is specifically there to offer resources on this topic. There's several already there, but I've also put in this very valuable resource. This is what it's going to do. You're going to go in there, pick the challenging child in your life, and you fill out the temperament chart. It only goes up to 36 months, but this works with all kids. You'll get a feel for how we as adults can help any child be successful no matter what their temperament traits are. So what you do is you fill out your temperament and their temperament, and it will give you results. It will show you what to do to help that child be successful. So not only did I give you a few tips and you guys share great tips today, but this resource is going to give you a whole list of tips depending on the temperament trait. I did it with intensity to give you a little insight into next week's, and you'll see that on this little 1-minute video, but you will love this resource. So I hope you have a chance to do that. It's been one of the most useful topics I've ever visited. I hope it was useful for you today, and I look forward to next week's Naptime Nuggets on working with intensity. So if you have a child with high intensity in your care right now, or if you're a parent to a child with high intensity, join us next week for some insight into what to do to help those children be successful. Thank you so much, everybody. Over and out.